All right. Hey, Allie, let's give a second for everything to go live here.
Hey,
Make
this is so
sure.
exciting. I love going live with you.
Me too. Me too. It should be activating now for us over on LinkedIn and Instagram. Okay, I see Instagram is loading up in a second. Of course, horizontally. Can never seem to get it go the other way, but we are live over on Instagram. I believe we're getting going live on LinkedIn. So we'll just give a quick moment. But for anyone who's already joining us, welcome. Really excited to have you join for a really special workshop today and a very special guest, my good friend, but also fellow career coach, Ali Peck. We'll just give a quick moment. I see a lot of faces joining us over on Instagram right now. I think we're good over on LinkedIn. So we are going to kick this off. Well, first, hey, Ali, how are you?
Hi. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I know. I feel like it's already the end of February. The time is flying. And I think what a great moment to dive into today's topic with our viewers today. So if you are new here, everyone, welcome. As a reminder, I'm Tiffany Human. I am a former senior director at L'Oreal and now globally recognized career coach where we love supporting you to land better roles, faster promotions, more growth, all of the things so that you can really thrive with confidence at work. And also a LinkedIn Learning instructor with over 900,000 learners. If you haven't checked out my courses, please do. They're free and really practical. And also a Forbes Coaches Council member. And I'm so excited to be joining today, like I said, my good friend and fellow coach, Ali Peck. If you don't know Ali, you should. She's fantastic. You might know her as Ali from corporate, just sharing some great insights and content daily across her socials. And Ali is also the owner of Higher Horizon, which is a fantastic school community supporting job seekers in landing more interviews and job offers. So if that sounds like your jam and you guys are ready to step into some great new opportunities this year, this is what we're going to be diving into today and really speaking to the power of personal branding because that is what's going to really support you in those next steps. Ali, anything else to add? And again, a huge welcome for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I love this. No, you hit the nail on the head. One question I have for you is what are you going to do when you hit 1 million learners on LinkedIn to celebrate?
My gosh. I mean, I haven't thought of that, but I should. I think even just any amount is amazing to be able to support in that way. But we'll probably pop some champagne. I think that's a big milestone
Oh yeah.
and kind of a surreal one to think that we've impacted so many people. But
Wow.
yeah, we'll definitely be more intentional about that. It really
Cool.
is more around just showing up daily and helping and making sure that incredible professionals are making some great moves in their career. So this is going to be a
Absolutely.
lot of fun, Ali, and thanks for taking the time. Everyone, say hi in the chat. Let us know maybe what's top of mind for you right now. If you're exploring a new opportunity, a better opportunity, whether in your organization or transitioning somewhere else, maybe let us know if you're joining us from Instagram or LinkedIn. What's coming up for you right now? Because we will definitely have some time for questions as well. But Ali, let's just jump right in. I mean, we talk about personal branding. We hear it a lot. And I think it could feel pretty surface level at times for people as to like, well, what does that actually mean? And how does that help me move into a next role faster? So I'd love to maybe just kick it off with you and let me know what that means for you and how you've been really leveraging it in helping people make those transitions.
Yeah, so I love the title that we landed on for this live, Become an Opportunity Magnet. And I feel like I used to chase opportunities a lot and there was more of a running after it rather than like them showing up on my door and me being able to say yes, no, no, yes to this one, no to this one. So I love the title that we chose, Becoming an Opportunity Magnet. And something that I wanted to mention is let's define opportunity. Let's give some examples so that we can put this in a frame for people to understand, okay, this applies to my situation. So
Mm,
I'm thinking, for me at least, opportunities, it could be a new job, it could
mhm,
be a promotion at work, it could be getting involved with a high visibility project at work, a consulting gig, it could be becoming a mentor for somebody or getting a mentor, it could be business opportunities. So, really, opportunity kind of spans the gamut between like finding a new job, having opportunities within that job, or maybe leaving the 9 to 5 world and starting a business and having those sorts of opportunities. So, yeah, I just wanted to define that. But one note that I wrote down and I thought about was, for me, becoming an opportunity magnet is about framing yourself as a problem solver at work. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, that's a big piece of it, I will say. You
Yeah.
wanna be the solution to the need, whatever the need is, to your point, Allie. If it's a new role, well, what are they looking for in that new role? If it's an internal promotion, well, how do you position yourself to be the right person to take that on and instill confidence towards that? If it's an exposure opportunity, how do you put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? So 100%, I think the problem-solving piece is a big one because it's almost like solving the problem of how do you get into that next step? What are the things you need to solve for to make it happen faster?
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. If you want to become an opportunity magnet, do you think that you have to have opportunities in mind that you know about that exist? Or can you just be an opportunity magnet in general and just hope for the best and be surprised at what comes forward?
Oh, I love that question. I think it could actually be a combination of both. I mean, we've helped a lot of our clients actually create opportunities that weren't there to begin with. And even in organizations where they felt like they had hit a ceiling or that there was no growth opportunity anymore. And I said, well, hang on a second. Before we jump to that conclusion, what is it that you would have really liked to achieve here? And then they talk through it. And it's like, okay, great. Have you had that conversation? Well, no, because like that department doesn't really exist or there's limited headcount. I was like, well, okay. But then we need to kind of work in that direction to at least put it out there. And to your point, Allie, really position yourself as the problem solver that, hey, if we were to create this opportunity, if we were to create that path, here's the benefit for the company that maybe isn't being considered top of mind right now. And that can create opportunities that don't exist today. So I would actually say it's a little bit of both. And you don't have to have something directly in mind. I do believe it's important, though, to have clarity around what it is that you want and why you want it. Because from a communication standpoint in building your brand, that's really important. So it doesn't fall, on deaf ears or just fall flat with the people you're speaking to. Would you
Completely
agree?
agree. I agree. And with what you're saying, one of the problems is falling on deaf ears, but the opposite problem would be not having any visibility. And so we have one question in the chat. Somebody from Uruguay is wanting to boost their personal brand and transition from chasing opportunities to choosing them.
Hmm.
And I want to piggyback on what you just said. So sometimes I like to let people know what opportunities I'm interested in. Sometimes I would say it's not appropriate, especially if you're job searching in stealth mode. Maybe don't start telling everybody that you're looking for a new role. But if you are really wanting to get promoted, you can let your boss know, or you can have a conversation with them. Or if you want to be on a high visibility project at work, you can start meeting with some of those stakeholders and be a problem solver out loud for them and start to understand what they care about and then reverse engineer that and become that person to them.
This is so good. I love that you emphasize that, Ali, because honestly, a big part of it is just being explicit in what you want and not leading others to assume that for you. That could be a very dangerous path if
Yep.
you are like, well, why am I not getting that role? Why do I feel so stuck? Why am I stagnant? And not that it's always this, but often from what I've seen, and I think you too, Ali, is there's a lack of communication around it or visibility around what it is that you really want and why you want that to happen so that people making those decisions don't really know where you stand. And so it can lead to a bit of a stagnant path. So that is a great way of making those opportunities actually come towards you as opposed to further away.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic.
and speaking of working with that other party who maybe holds the opportunity that you want, I think that there are very subtle ways that you can understand if they're picking up what you're putting down. If you are having a conversation with somebody who has an opportunity that you really want to attract, um, when you are being a problem solver in conversation with them, you can see, if you say something out loud to them, you can sometimes see a sparkle in their eye where they go, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. That's one of many indicators that you are on the right path. And the opposite, somebody might say, yeah, that's an idea. But actually, I was thinking about this. So make sure that when you are talking to somebody that holds that opportunity that you really want, that you are paying attention to whether, I don't even know how to phrase this, whether they're interested in the input that you're giving or if they're like, no, let's head in a different direction. Have you ever
Mm.
experienced that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think a big piece of that is identifying, like, what their needs are. Sometimes the question I love encouraging people to ask is like, "What's keeping you up at night right now?" Or, like, "What's, like, the
Oh,
biggest pain point you're trying to solve in the team?" And it kinda stings a little when you ask that, but it brings something out of the other person, and it's a question that's rarely asked. And so if
yes.
you're the person bringing that forward and you're like, "Hey, I just wanna help. I just wanna support. I wanna see if there's maybe an opportunity that we can work closer together on that," that it would actually build a lot more trust and connection between the both of you. No, I think that's so, so valid, Ali. And I want to say a quick hi to some of our incredible participants joining us here today. I see Mian, I see Gelmis and Shifa and Margaret. Thank you so much for joining us over here on LinkedIn. We have quite a few joining us over on Instagram. And one of the next points I wanted to share, Ali, it ties with one of the comments that came here from Noreen, who was saying that she's been laid off in January. I'm so sorry to hear that, Noreen. I know how hard that is. And it's been difficult. I'm in events, marketing, and branding, and I'm the worst at branding myself. So I wanted to maybe just shed a little light of what it means to brand yourself. And
Yep.
I think let's start there and we'll build on that together, Ali. But for me, when I think of personal branding and what that means, it's like branding in general when we think of brands that we use. So, if we think of some of our household names, whether it's a Netflix, a Walmart, an Amazon, I mean, you name it, typically there's words that come to mind when you think of a brand, right? Maybe with Amazon, it's like convenient,
Fast.
easy,
Yep.
fast, right?
Yep.
And that's intentional. Like those words aren't just happening accidentally. These brands have put intentional effort into being viewed in that way. And so when you think of creating your own personal brand as a way to attract and become an opportunity magnet, you want to be able to think, okay, how and what do I want to be known for? Like, what are those words that I want others to say about me when I'm not even there? Right. And again, that doesn't happen by accident. It does require intentional effort. So maybe for you, Ali, at work, you're like, I want to be known as someone who is reliable, who's really credible in my expertise, someone that is really strategic, whatever it might be. And so if you know what those things are for yourself, whether for an internal opportunity or an external one, you can really hone in and use that to your advantage for actually communicating that better to others and what you can bring to the table, right? It's
Yep.
like what is in it for them, and knowing your brand really well and what you want to highlight will help you bridge that gap. What do you think about that, Ali? Do you think of it similarly? Do you have a different type of approach?
Yeah. Similar approach. So I love to leverage AI whenever I can. And so if this were me at work and I was thinking, okay, I really want people to, if I'm a project manager, for example, I really want people to see me as really good at gaining alignment between cross-functional teams. I might type into ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your favorite flavor is. I might type in, this is what I do for work. I'm looking to attract these types of opportunities. List me 10 ways that I can appear as somebody who is great at gaining alignment between cross-functional teams at work. And ChatGPT will list out 10 ideas for you. And 8 of them might be like, meh, whatever. But 2 of them you might go, oh, I have an opportunity to showcase that in my meeting tomorrow. Let me make a note of it. And I want to go back. This is similar. I want to go back to something you said a couple minutes ago, is understanding what people's biggest problem is or what keeps them
Mm,
up at night. That is something I ask in the beginning or the middle of every interview that I do if I'm looking for an opportunity. And this is with a new client, a job seeker, an interview if I'm looking for a job.
yeah.
I don't wait till the end of an interview to say, so what seems to be your biggest problem? Let's talk about how that can be solved. I typically ask that at the beginning of an interview or a chat with somebody, even a network casual coffee chat with somebody on Zoom.
Yeah.
And whatever they tell me their biggest problem is, I will frame the rest of my communication to them through that lens.
Yeah.
And then they will see me as, oh, she could be the solution to my problems. And that is probably, if you take one thing away from me, at least during this live, it's that is, if you can appear to be the solution to somebody's problems and you can think of, okay, what do they want? Let me reverse engineer that. And okay, I can find that in myself. Let me amplify that. That is what I found to be the thing that makes people's eyes light up the most in conversation.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It reminds me too, Ali, we were just supporting one of our clients recently on doing this for an external opportunity where he has this incredible, very technically savvy path that he's in. And he's like, I really love this organization and the work they're doing in that. And I know I can bring them a lot of value. And like, instead of just, putting it out there and sending a very generic message, I'm like, let's do this. Let's actually put together a bit of a free trial, if you will,
Yeah.
of what it would look like having you in the team and what you can do for them to solve a direct problem. And he gathered that insight from, just looking at what they're up to and some of their priorities and some latest news features and all of that. And he shared it with them, and it was really well received because one, no one asked him to do that. It was, just pure volunteer, but showing that he brought that value right out of the gate. And as someone who's looking for an external opportunity, they don't know you yet. And so
Right.
if this is something that they can already gauge, like, like, wow, we didn't even ask him to do that, and he's already doing that for us. That's a pretty cool thing to witness on their end. And it's immediate value. And you can do that externally, you could do that internally, to your point, Ali, right? Like if there's a problem that you're uncovering that you can solve because you've asked about pain points, you've asked about opportunity areas, you've picked up on things in meetings with some of your senior leaders of what's really a hot topic for them or top of mind. You're like, hey, I'm actually doing a lot of that in my work right now, and I haven't really showed that to them. Maybe I can actually help and take the lead on this and present that to them and get their input and see how that can support them further. These are really proactive ways of using your personal brand and what you want to be known for to attract more of those opportunities.
Yep. I love what you say about free trials. I mean, if we really think about it, so many of these big brands that you just mentioned, Walmart, Amazon, Target, they give us free trials. Netflix, 7-day free trial. Spotify, I don't know if they do a free trial, but they could.
Yeah,
And it's a
I think
way
they
to
all do.
gain I think they all do. It's
They
genius.
all do.
And I have
Yeah.
I have the same thing. I have a 14-day, it's either 7 or 14-day money back guarantee for my paid for Higher Horizon membership for job seekers. And we have not had to give a refund yet, which I'm proud to say. Everybody loves it, but it's a way to gain trust.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
if you can do what Tiffany's saying, if you can give somebody a free trial of what you offer, if they love it, you've got it. You've got that opportunity. If you give them something and it's not for them, you may have escaped a situation that could be a bad fit that you may be calling toxic later on. And
Mhm.
so I always tell my job seekers, if you can create a project portfolio, or maybe if you have a case study that the company gives you during the interview phase and you can demonstrate your value for free before they commit to you, you are lowering the risk that they're going to have to take in giving you that opportunity. So I love what you're saying about free
Yeah.
trials. Give people a
Yeah.
free trial.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun way to think about it. It's like a little less pressure because you're like, "Hey, I just wanna build goodwill," right?
Yeah.
Like, I just wanna, like, either which way, you're building goodwill or you're helping others, help you advance in some way or another. So it's a win-win. Like, you're putting good things out there or you're attracting more opportunities, and even if it's not an immediate opportunity, it can lead to a one very shortly in the future. I think another thing I'm interested to get your thoughts on, Ali, is when we think about our personal brand and how we can really use it to become an opportunity magnet, a lot of it also comes down to how we actually communicate and like talk about ourselves and advocate for ourselves. And so I always kind of bring that back to, knowing our strengths, knowing what differentiates us really well. And so so some good guiding questions, I think that can help because this tends to stump people often of like, well, one, maybe they feel uncomfortable talking about themselves in this way, but also just not always being so clear of what does set them apart. Could fall easily in the trap of dismissing, like, oh, it's just part of my job, it's nothing special, all of that, right? And so, some good questions that our viewers can really ask is, what is something that you're often commended for, whether in your work or previous workplaces? What is something that people come to ask you advice on often? What's something that's really natural for you and comes really easily, like second nature almost? Looking back at like past performance reviews that you've had, like has there been consistent feedback and strengths that have been highlighted there? And even just talking with people, even in your personal life, like what do your friends appreciate about you? What does your family appreciate about you? And making sure that those qualities also are shining in your workplace so that you're really having a brand that represents you very authentically, as
Yeah.
opposed to feeling like you're one person at work and then one person in your personal life. So I always love those types of guiding questions just to peel back the layers of the onion and not keep it of like, I'm really good at communication. It's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Well, I'm actually really good at taking complex topics and simplifying them so that even other departments can provide the buy-in I need on XYZ, right? Like something like that just sounds a lot more tangible as opposed to keeping it very up here. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Ali?
So I definitely used to have trouble talking about myself. I didn't want to appear, I don't know, like I was overcompensating or bragging or cocky. And I have learned that if you can share a sentence instead of saying, I have 3 LinkedIn Learning courses, to me, that sounds like bragging. Um, but if I phrase the sentence as, back when I created my 3 LinkedIn Learning courses, I learned blah, blah, blah. That might help you. It's such a subtle, humble brag at the beginning of the sentence to build your self credibility so that they trust the second half of your sentence.
Yeah.
So maybe phrase things like that. But an exercise that I like to have people do is, and this is also a trend on TikTok right now, is write a letter to your 10-year-old self, updating them on what you've done with your life. And we might feel uncomfortable bragging to other people about our accomplishments, but I've never heard anybody feel uncomfortable bragging to their 10-year-old self for their accomplishments.
Yeah.
And the trend on TikTok right now, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on
I've seen
Instagram
it.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but it's like I just had coffee with my 12-year-old, or I guess 18-year-old self. She was wearing a cutoff shirt. I was wearing a business suit. She ordered a frappuccino. I ordered a latte, and it just kind of illustrates the differences and shows how people have grown up and grown into themselves. So it can definitely feel uncomfortable talking to people about your accomplishments, but if you can understand that that's the only way they're going to know what you're up to, they're not going to go to your LinkedIn profile and read about you. Um, I used to think that people were going to read my newsletter and read the very bottom of it and search for my accomplishments so that they could trust me more. No, nobody's going to spend the time doing that on their own. You have to let them know, or maybe just hint a little bit at it and then maybe get them curious and they'll
Yeah.
ask you more about it. But that's been my experience with
Oh, yeah.
the
I mean,
bragging.
it's spot on, and it's that balance. I always say, self advocacy and advocating for yourself, owning your wins, however you want to frame it. Like it's not cocky; it's really necessary. Like you have to do it. But to your point, Ali, there's words that you can use in showcasing your brand and how you bring value in a way that doesn't feel awkward or uncomfortable. Of course, I like people to build up to the point where they can confidently say, I've done this, I've spearheaded that, I've led this, I've managed that. But other alternatives could be something like, a project I'm really proud of was fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
Or, this was something I poured a lot of energy into, and I love the way that it came through, right? Just something that still shows ownership. So it's not attributed to someone else accidentally. And one question I say often, but I think it's a good reminder that when we do think about our personal brand and attracting more opportunities to us, we want to ensure that you're being recognized for the things and the value that you've brought. And so, a good question that you can ask yourself is, what wouldn't have happened if I wasn't there? And this is especially important if you manage a team. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what wouldn't have happened if I wasn't there? Because as a team leader, even not as a team lead, but you always want to have that distinction between what you've specifically done and your contributions, and how that speaks directly to your track record. That way, there's no confusion. Like, there's no ambiguous, like, was it Ali? Was it Tiffany? Like, they worked on this together. And it's a good way of really owning what you bring to the table once again, because that insight and intel is going to be really helpful in determining if you can be that problem solver, if you can be the one to solve the need of that opportunity and position yourself best for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing, I don't know if you've done this a lot. You and I have done this a lot. I don't know if you've ever intentionally done this before you grew on social media, but being a magnetic person, I find that it helps when you record yourself and listen to it or watch it. And you and I do this a lot because we're on camera every single day. We
Yeah,
record a lot of what we do and we watch it over and over again. When I'm scrolling on my phone, my face shows up and I go, look, there I am. I used to cringe, but now I'm like, that's kind of
that's
cool.
the way it is. Yeah.
Um, so feel free to record a video of yourself privately in the comfort of your own home or your own office or whatever, in the car, not while you're driving, and talk about yourself for a couple minutes. And then watch it and see if you are seeming confident and you have that executive presence that everybody talks about. And you can also, if you have the Chat GPT app, which I love, you can press the microphone button and talk into it for a couple minutes. And then at the end, you can say, did I sound confident? Did I sound like I was bragging? Can you give me feedback about talking about my accolades and my achievements? And it'll give you some feedback. So I like having that feedback loop, either using AI or watching myself on camera, because I can tell when I'm faking it. I can tell I have a certain look in my eye when I know I'm saying something that I don't really believe to my core. And then I can also see when I'm like, yeah, I'm really passionate about this and I'm really proud of what I'm talking about. So see if you can notice a difference also if you record yourself.
Oh yeah, it's such a good tip. I'm big on that too, Ali, as you know, and it's helpful because you catch yourself, right? And it, in a way, gives you practice for the real moment of truth, so you're a little less nervous or anxious for that. But it also helps you feel more comfortable in expressing those things, right, and making it feel more natural. And even with your point of leveraging AI, because it's so helpful in these circumstances of even just identifying words like, how can I maybe make this sound more confident, more assertive? I tend to use just a lot in my language. What are some good different words I can use instead of that? And things like this. So you're catching yourself more actively. And even though it might not change for you overnight, I guarantee just by doing what Ali and I are recommending, it's going to help you pick it up when it happens and you're going to catch yourself better. And that's not to psych yourself out in any way, but it allows you to actually recognize, oh, shoot, there I go again. Or, oh, here, I'm about to say it like that. So it's a little bit of a journey, if you will, but it does help because being able to attract more opportunities through personal branding is also so closely paired with the right communication, and how you're articulating yourself and how you're putting yourself out there and presenting yourself. And we
Yep.
never want to minimize that. Yeah. Yeah. For you, Ali, what have you found to be most helpful, let's say in attracting more external opportunities and using personal branding for that? Let's say for someone who's a little shy or maybe more introverted of kind of getting out there, not really knowing where to start. They might have a good feel of, their strengths and what that is, but it's like they can't quite get it communicated.
Yeah.
They are not getting the opportunities, not getting the interviews. How would you recommend tackling that?
Yeah. So I have a good friend named Jessica Chen, and she wrote a book specifically for the audience you're talking about, introverts who want to stand out, but they're maybe a little timid.
Yeah.
And her book is called Smart Not Loud. And I
Yeah.
love her
Great.
book. I have it on my shelf. She's a wonderful woman. So go follow her, Jessica Chen, on social media. But I have noticed that when I put myself out there and I want to attract opportunities and I get out of my comfort zone, it feels really scary. My heart is racing, my palms are sweaty. I feel nervous. Maybe I'm like shaking a little bit. I feel nauseous. But what I like to remind myself in those moments are that magic doesn't happen in your comfort zone.
Mhm.
And you have to stand out a little bit in order to attract these opportunities. And I tell my job seekers this all the time. 100 people have applied for this job or more. 1,000 people have applied for this job that have a resume that look exactly like yours and a cover letter that was also written by ChatGPT. So do something a little bit extra. Submit a project portfolio or use Loom to send them a thank you video, a 30-second thank you video or a 30-second video introducing yourself, or
Yeah.
create a personal website listing some of your accomplishments in a humble way, of course. So trying new things, understanding that when you get nervous trying new things, or I'm an introvert, for example. My social battery definitely depletes when I'm around a lot of people, which is why I love making content at home by myself in my safe office. But I like to remind myself that getting out of my comfort zone might feel scary, but I'm not being chased by a lion. My life is not in danger. My vital signs are going, wild, like heart rate, because I'm doing something I've never done before. But then always afterwards, I either learn from the experience or I get the opportunity and I get to pat myself on the back and then
Yeah.
keep going.
Ah, it's so good. I mean, the only way to get more confident is to take action and do what might feel uncomfortable one day. That's not going to feel uncomfortable tomorrow. We all start somewhere, and I think it ties actually really nicely with a comment coming through over on Instagram, and then I'm going to come back to Gelmis's question from LinkedIn. But this comment from Instagram was saying, "I've tried to record videos of myself and really struggle with looking at myself. I criticize my mouth movement, my head tilt, etc." So I have a bit of a different frame of perspective for you. Okay, little real talk here, but look, I know that can sometimes feel uneasy when you're doing it, and it could actually discourage you from wanting to do that more. But here's the thing: the person that you're talking to, whoever that is on the other end, in an interview, in a in-person setting at work, whatever that might be, that's what they're seeing. So you can give yourself the chance to correct a little bit how you want to show up. Maybe it's like, okay, I got to practice keeping my head straight instead of tilting it. Or I talk with my hands way too much, or I'm touching my hair all the time, right? When you're catching yourself doing that, now you're giving yourself the chance to fix that. As uncomfortable as it might feel the first couple of times, now you're going to actually thank yourself, because the way that you're going to present it to other people is going to be how you want it to be viewed and perceived, versus kind of turning a blind eye, being like, hopefully it's not that bad in person. And then they're maybe feeling the same thing that you're feeling. So maybe just keep that in mind and know that, yes, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. I know, Ali, you mentioned it. I did too. Like when I go back to some of my first videos and content, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so cringeworthy. But
Yeah.
it's you got to start somewhere. And when you get out of the shell and realize, hey, I'm doing this because I want to be the best version of myself. I'm doing this because I want to attract better roles and better opportunities for myself. I'm doing this for my family because I know I deserve better and I need to help myself get there. When you give yourself a bigger purpose and a why, it's going to help you break through that little bit of friction or resistance, I will say, in doing it. So hopefully that helps you, Noreen. You let us know. We got some good questions coming through here on LinkedIn, Ali. So I'm going to pop some of them up.
Okay.
I see one from Gelmis. We'll read it out here. How do you ensure you don't speak too much, or that you are not perceived as self-centered and not thinking about the team when having an interview? What would you recommend? I'll let you take that one first, Ali, and I can share some additional thoughts too.
So when I'm speaking to somebody and I have the fear of, I hope I'm not saying too much, I like to say less than necessary. And then I'll end with, does that answer your question? And they'll either say, yeah, and they'll move on, or they'll say, no, I was actually wondering more about this. So I like to have these little checks in the middle of communicating with somebody or a group of people. And I want to make sure that I'm actively solving their problem as I'm communicating instead of just rambling, which might seem like it's coming from a place of nerves, or maybe you're being perceived as self-centered and not thinking about the team. So I always like to do that. And that shows that you have respect for other people's time and that you value their time and you don't want to waste it. So I would recommend saying less than you think you should, and be reminding yourself when you're talking of what their question was. And you can even say, if you forget, you can say, I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. Can you remind me what your question was? Or you can say, does that answer your question? So I loved that phrase.
That's a good tip. So helpful, right? And it gives you those checks and balances in the delivery of your communication there.
Yep.
Less is more. It also it's a bit of a muscle to practice, but sometimes being more succinct and saying less and getting used to saying less is going to help you, because saying more isn't necessarily better. It could dilute your message. It can make the other person, especially an interviewer, feel lost or confused around, like, well, what are we getting at? Like, and so try to really structure it. I always like recommending a three-part structure, sharing what you did, how you did it, and the result that it brought. So it's really easy to remember for any type of situation. It's kind of like a 1, 2, 3 punch. And to your point around, not making sure that it's coming off as like self-centered, or if there's a team involved, a good way of wording that could be highlighting the things that you specifically did. And then once you've handled that, laying that over into the team part and saying, and from there, because did that foundation, or I created the initial marketing plan and took it through to this point. That's where I worked really closely with the rest of my team who really helped bring it into market effectively, right? And so you're just showing like the right time and place to talk about you and talk about the team, but the interview is about you. So I think it's only normal that you're not spending too much time talking about that as well. Yeah.
Yep. Agree.
Okay, that was a good question. Let's take this one. I see another one coming up from Bobor. This is a little bit more on business ideas. So, how do I turn social media engagement into business deals? I
Mm.
mean, a lot of it comes back to what we're saying, Ali, but feel free to share any initial thoughts and I'll jump on as well.
So I think it always goes back to figure out what problem they have that you can solve with your specific skill set or your service or your product, and
Yeah.
then position it that way. A lot of people, I'd say most people, do not want to feel sold. They don't want to feel like they're in a sales pitch or in your sales funnel. So if you can try to get to know them, get to know your audience, you can do a poll on Instagram, you can make a TikTok video asking, like for me, I'll say, job seekers, what's your biggest issue? Is it not getting a second interview, or are you not getting interviews at all? And then they'll tell me what their problem is. And then I will work on solving that problem for them. And they'll see me as the solution to their problems. So I would say position yourself as the solution. And first, that requires you getting to know what their biggest problems are. And that will tell you if somebody is a good fit as a client, or maybe if it would be a bad fit because maybe what you're selling is not going to solve their problem. That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
100%. Oh, I love that. And even to build too on the notion of, getting to the heart of the problem, please, please, please do not, engage on, let's say, LinkedIn and reach out to someone immediately and say, hey, I'm following you over on LinkedIn. Love the work you're doing. Here's everything about my service. Like, want to hop on a call. It's too strong too soon. And you haven't built any trust. You're much better off easing into it and sharing maybe something that you've picked up on the work that they're doing, or getting a sense of what might be coming up for them, or even sharing, as we said, like a free trial, like a bit of a gauge of something you might have put together so that they can see firsthand how you can support them, as the proof is in the pudding. That's going to be a much stronger way and effective way of getting a business deal from that, rather than just sales pitching yourself right out of the gate. So just a little something to be conscious of. But thank you so much, Bobor, for your question. Hopefully that helps. We have another one coming in here, Ali. I want to make sure, because I know we're going to be wrapping up in a little, so we're taking some of the questions coming through. This one is from Alexandra. How do you deal with negative experiences in networking? For example, encountering people who are jealous, greedy, or selfish, or meeting those who could share useful information but simply choose not to. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely have my thoughts on this. You go first, Ali. I'll share mine too.
Okay, so hi, Alexandra. Alexandra and I have a one-on-one later today. She was one of the top people in the leaderboard in my community. And if you
Yay!
are one of the top 3 people that engages in my community, you get a free one-on-one with me. So, Alexandra, we can talk more about this later in our one-on-one. I'm excited to speak with you. But negative experiences in networking, I don't know if I've had too many what I would consider negative. I always this sounds a little cliche and cheesy, but I would consider them maybe learning opportunities. And if I encounter people who are jealous or greedy or selfish, um, I don't know. I don't know that I would. I actually don't really know how to answer this question. Meeting those who could share useful information but simply choose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would maybe understand where they're coming from and lead with questions. And I wonder what they're jealous of and how they came to know that information. But let me hear what you think. This is an
Yeah.
interesting one.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good
Mhm.
one. We've helped a lot of our clients with this, whether in networking or even just dealing with toxicity at work, whether it's jealous coworkers, a boss who's threatened by you, keeping you playing small, all of that stuff. And so often these people aren't really worthy of your attention. And as much as you might feel like they could be a resource for you, if they're already coming off this way, chances are they're not going to become a major advocate. And so I would much rather, Alexandra, that you orient your energy towards those who do love giving back and paying it forward, because there's a lot of people out there in that category, versus trying to beat a dead horse and be like, but I know they have information. I know I can get it out from them. Maybe I just need to say it this way or that way. if these are qualities that they're bringing forward, by the way, it's more a reflection of their insecurities projected onto you than anything else. So please do not take that personally. They have their own stuff they need to work through, and they just haven't done that yet. And I don't want that to feel like it reflects anything negatively about yourself. They are just not the type of people that are going to go out of their way to help, and that's okay. There's people who don't, and there's people who are. So I would much rather that we kind of just give that the little attention it deserves and actually get you on the track of finding those who are very willing and like mentoring, like giving back, like sharing information, and don't see it as a threat or worry in any way. And you'll
I
find
have
those people.
I have one more thing to add.
Yeah.
That answer inspired me. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So I often notice that positive, wonderful, beautiful people know other positive, wonderful, beautiful people. For example, I don't know if it was you or Diana who introduced me to each other, but you guys both know each other, and now I know both of you, and you have so many qualities in common. You're altruistic, you're selfless, you're helpful, you're, I mean, intelligent, um, strong, and people in each other's network often have similar qualities. Like attracts like. That's where this magnetism comes in that we're talking about today. So when I have networking opportunities, if I love what we talk about, in the end, I'll say, is there anybody else that you know that I should speak to? And sometimes they'll introduce you to the next person. And it's
Yeah.
almost like a little scavenger hunt of networking. I would not ask that to these jealous, greedy, selfish people. I would say, nice talking to you. Thank you so much. Hope you have a nice weekend, and just never talk to them again.
Yeah. 100%. When they go low, you go high, like you can't control how other people act or react, but you can control how you show up. And so I'm just a big advocate to your point, Ali, of like, control what you can control and focus your energy on those who are going to be willing to help, because there's a lot of that. And I love the idea of just looking within those circles, because there's likely a lot of good that can come from that. So hopefully that helps you, Alexandra. You let us know. Here, I have another question here from Chifa, but I also just want to see this nice comment for you, Ali, from me. And I got the top voice badge and lots of emails from LinkedIn to start making videos, but for some reason I'm avoiding it. I'm learning a lot of best practices from you, Ali. Yeah, for you, man, like totally own it. Like sometimes when people are asking us about something, it's what I said earlier, right? When we talk about identifying our strengths, that question of what is something that I get commended for? What is something that people come to me for advice on? Don't suppress that. Like that could be like, maybe there is something here. Maybe I can help someone with that. Maybe that's something I've been underestimating that I should actually showcase more. So you got this. We're rooting for you. I'm going to come to Chifa's question next. I think we're covering the ones from Instagram as well, from what I can see. So Chifa's question is, how can I build long-term credibility in a topic I'm passionate about, even if I'm not an expert yet? Oh, okay, Ali, you take this one first.
I did exactly that. So I have become a thought leader in the world of job searching, and I have never been a recruiter. I've never worked in HR. I only became a hiring manager 3 years ago. I'm about 15 years into my career. So I did exactly what you're talking about, built long-term credibility on a topic I'm passionate about, even though if I was not an expert when I started. I started by just talking about my own experience, because we
Yeah.
are experts in our own lives. Nobody knows your own experiences better than you. There are people that have been there on the other side of the table, but you have been there for every one of your experiences in life. And so if you can just make content, if that's what you're talking about, for building credibility or even having conversations, talk about your own experiences. Nobody can argue with that,
Yeah.
because it lives within you. You're not making it up. It's not some fact you read in a dictionary. So consider yourself an expert in your own experience, and then boom, there's your credibility. And I have so many people. The most common hate comment that I get on social media is, she's not even a hiring, or she's not even a recruiter. She doesn't even have any experience in HR. And I just think, well, I've been a job seeker for 15 years, so I know a thing or two.
Oh my gosh. Like we need to do mic drop. I can't drop this mic, Ali, but I would if I could. I swear. No, I think that's spot on. I relate so much to what you're saying too, Ali. I'm not from, an HR recruitment background, but similarly based on the expertise that I had established in growing really rapidly in a major multinational like L'Oreal, I realized, hey, there's some things that clearly I'm doing that are working versus other teams that were not seeing that same kind of progress. And it was really that drive to help others because I've lived it. I've done the thing. I've been in the trenches. People can really relate to that. I'm not speaking about something you should do that HR might tell you to do because that sounds nice. It's like, no, this is actually what works, and here's exactly how to do it. And you apply it that way, right? So there's actually a lot to be said by tapping into your experience. And on top of that, just know that to be considered an expert, you don't have to have all the pieces at once, right? Depending who you're looking to help or support, if you're just a few steps ahead and you've done that and someone behind you is like, "Oh, I actually want to do what you're doing," you can be, considered an expert in their eyes because they're like, "Hey, look, Allie's already done that. Like, I want to do that." And that proximity can help because it's not like something you've done like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe something you did 2 years ago. So it's really fresh. So it's all about how you frame it, and especially for like an internal credibility, if you're elevating yourself in a role or a function or an area of expertise, don't be shy to share resources as a way of bringing expertise and showing your curiosity of learning and up-leveling in an area, and share your takeaways or your thoughts or your insights. I used to do that a lot with my time at L'Oreal, and I encourage our clients to do this very often of taking inspiration, bringing it back, and adding your insights or takeaways of what that means for you and your teams. That's a great way of showing expertise and building your credibility, even if you don't have all the answers yourself just yet. So hopefully that helps, Chifa. You let us know. Great question. Just before we come to the last question that I'm seeing here, Allie, any other thoughts when it comes to, attracting opportunities, becoming an opportunity magnet through personal branding that you feel we haven't dove into
Yes.
just yet?
I want to point out a sentence that you just spoke out loud that was a perfect example of building credibility and speaking about your accomplishments without seeming self-centered. You just said something like, back during my time as a leader in L'Oreal, which was a multinational corporation, something like that. But then that wasn't the focus of the sentence. You said something else, and you built your self-credibility at the beginning of the sentence, and then you provided value during the second half of your sentence. Perfect example of what we're talking about. You didn't
Yeah.
say, "I'm Tiffany and I used to be a leader at a multinational corporation, L'Oreal." That wasn't the sentence. It was such a minor part at the beginning of the sentence that made me go, "Ooh, how cool is she?" And then you kept talking, and I was like, "Oh, gotta listen to what she's saying. She used to work at L'Oreal." So perfect example of what we're talking about.
No, it's a good point. It's all about setting the context that can create the base of what you're building from, right? Like, and even using language like based on or based off, it's nice, strong language that
Mhm.
doesn't feel fluffy. It doesn't feel like I feel or I think. It's like, no, based on the experience that I've had in this, or based on the exposure I've had to that, or based on leading projects like this in the past. It just sounds really credible as
Yeah.
that comes through. And to your point, Allie, is a great segue for whatever you share next. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I love pairing a humble brag with a little bit of vulnerability. So I might phrase it as, "I learned so many lessons the hard way during my time at L'Oreal, as a director or whatever position." And so if you phrase it that way, people might go, "Wow, she's vulnerable. She's really, laying her cards out on the table. She used to be in a really high position and she even made mistakes. If she can do it, I can do it." So I
yeah.
love phrasing things that way. I learned a lot of things the hard way back when I was writing my book, and people are like, "Oh, she wrote a book and she learned. Maybe I can do that too."
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. It's the vulnerability is such like an underestimated quality in building a brand, I would
Yeah.
say. We feel like personal branding has to be, all the bells and whistles, but vulnerability is what creates so much more connection because people can
Yeah.
relate to you, and they can feel connected to you. I know you feel that, Ali, in your community. I feel that in mine. It's a very powerful thing, because yes, you might be accomplished. You might have gotten to a certain point in your career, but you maybe have other goals, and knowing that others who have maybe achieved those goals have had similar struggles, similar challenges, and you're like, "Hey, I've done that. Clients have done that. They've come through the other end. Like you can do it too." It gives hope. It gives possibility, and that's a big part of becoming an opportunity magnet, of knowing what's possible for you, believing it's possible, and doing what's in your control, being your brand and how you articulate and show up to bring those things together a lot faster. Virginia's just asking, will this be recorded? Yes, I always save the recording over on my LinkedIn. I don't know if it saves on yours, Ali. You'll have to let me know, but either which way, it should be loaded up right after, and I'll add a few the notes from what we covered today together, so you'll be
Cool.
able to check it out. Okay, we have a last question here from Bobor. What are the best platforms for growing my influence in my niche? How can I position myself as an authority in a new industry? What are effective ways to get media coverage for my personal brand? Oh, I like that. Triple header. Any thoughts on that, Ali?
Yes, I have learned that there are different types of people on YouTube versus LinkedIn versus Instagram versus Facebook versus TikTok versus Lemonade versus whatever social media platform you want to talk about. So I would do some research. Again, you can leverage AI for this, and you can say what are the main demographics on these platforms. And depending on what country you want to target, or what age bracket, or people with a certain level of spending power, I would like professionals, for example, job seekers. I love LinkedIn. Tiffany, that's probably your main platform also, and then maybe Instagram next.
Yeah.
TikTok, I would say, is more for just visibility. I find it a little easier to go viral on TikTok than other platforms, and so I'll be a little more controversial and inflammatory with my language on TikTok to get the visibility, and I'll drive people to my other platforms and then be a little more politically correct on there. So, and I'll always be my most professional self on LinkedIn. You won't see all of my TikTok videos on there, but so I would definitely do some research on who you're trying to target, and then find out where they're spending their time. How can I position myself as an authority in a new industry? Talk about your experience. Again, an authority in a new industry. If it's a new industry that you're new to, you might not have authority yet, but you can, if that's the case, then you can document your journey. I love a good journey documentary. Just like, hey, I'm that. If you watch my very first video on LinkedIn, that's what it was. It was, I'm going to start making video. I was so timid in my purple garage during COVID. I was bundled up in my snow jacket, and I was like, I'm going to start making videos on LinkedIn. I plan on talking about these things. Follow me if you want to know more. Nobody saw the video, but it was my first one, and I wasn't an authority figure yet, but I was communicating that I would like to be, and so that was kind of like me documenting my journey.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I don't know if anybody watched the SAG Awards, but there was this video of Timothée Chalamet, and it's going around because I think it's just such a refreshing take to hear from, people in the public eye around like that he's really striving for greatness. He's like, I want to be one of the greats. Like I
Yeah.
inspire from the greats. I want to be one of the greats, and I'm working really hard to get there. And so to your point, Ali, just sometimes putting it out there of like, this might be, newer to me, but like, I want to get there. This is my path. Everyone starts somewhere. And then really inspiring yourself from others who can help pave that path for you. That's a great way of continuing to build up your authority. And just know that it's going to probably take some stages. But if you have a pretty clear goal in mind, you could easily get there. And then in terms of effective ways to get media coverage for your personal brand, there's different paths you can take for that. Obviously, if you're thinking to do more outreach directly to media partners, different types of publications, you can go that route. You can also work with agencies that can help you with that. But I don't think you necessarily need to go that way so quickly. There's a lot to be said for even just organic brand building and creating an audience and a following that way that can actually facilitate the media coverage that could come at a later time. You want to kind of look at the right timing for media coverage and make sure it strikes, when you're kind of really feeling good and ready to like skyrocket, right?
Yep. I would also say if you are wanting to grow on any platform, make 5 pieces of content every day. Sounds like a lot. It is a lot. Try not to get burnt out on that one, but you will learn faster about what catches people's eye and what doesn't, and what people want to hear from you and what they don't, rather than making one video a week or one video a day or one post every couple days. So
Yeah.
go hard at the beginning if you have the time and the resources and the energy, and you will propel yourself. You will accelerate yourself so much faster than if you do like a little one here and there.
Totally. Oh, so good. We have another just quick question coming through on Instagram from La Vida and Sophia. I started listening mid-call. Could I have access to the complete interview? It's great. Well, thank you for joining us. Like I was mentioning briefly, it's going to be loaded up on my LinkedIn page. So if you don't already follow me or Ali on LinkedIn, definitely do that. We share some great content over there every day, and you'll definitely find it right over on my page. In addition to former workshops, I come live on LinkedIn every Friday, hosting a workshop dedicating to a certain topic to help you again land better roles, more growth, faster promotions, really show up with confidence. And Ali is so amazing at what she does in helping job seekers move into next roles, get those interviews, show up as their best self. So a lot of really good resources here that you can certainly leverage. So thanks so much for joining. Any last thoughts, Ali, before we wrap up? Anything
I
you
have
feel like
so
we
I
haven't
have so
mentioned?
many thoughts, not necessarily about Opportunity Magnet, but what we could do with this live recording. And I mean, I guess it's part of being an opportunity magnet. I'm always thinking of how can I leverage the resources that I have at this moment to get where I'm trying to go. And so in my mind, I'm thinking I could turn this into a podcast episode. I know you have a new podcast as well, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I could take
Absolutely.
we could take the transcript of this, turn it into a newsletter. I like part of being an opportunity magnet is thinking about what resources do I have, where am I trying to go, and how can I leverage these things to propel myself in that direction. So that's kind of like what's on my mind at the end of this call. So it's a
Totally,
lifestyle.
repurposing a little bit. And also because even coming back to Bobor's point, but even as we think about it for personal branding in general, giving people exposure to you in different ways is really helpful,
Yeah.
right? Maybe, in a work setting, if you are in a lot of meetings, that's going to be an avenue that you want to take. Maybe if you're looking for a new opportunity right now, it's more like written content and something that you want to put out there and building your thought leadership in an area. So just have a little fun with it. Try to tap into your natural strengths because it's just going to make those things feel more fun and natural than forced.
Yeah.
But totally a lot of good stuff here. And if anyone tuned in somewhat halfway through our session, definitely go back and watch from the beginning. There were some amazing golden nuggets that Ali shared and I really built on for really working through personal branding and helping that become an opportunity magnet for you, whether you're looking to transition into a better role, a new role, move up in your organization. It is a powerful, powerful thing to use to your advantage. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining today. Definitely, if you like this, again, I'm live every Friday on LinkedIn. You can join me back here. I'm sure Ali and I will be doing one of these again really soon. And Ali, thank you so much. Where could everybody find you if they don't already follow you right now?
Oh my gosh, I'm everywhere. My favorite platform right now is Instagram. I love the maturity level of the questions I get on there. YouTube, I get really long questions, and then TikTok, not very many. So love Instagram. I'm Ali from Corporate Zero on Instagram. So yeah, feel free to message me there. And if you're a job seeker, I would love to support you. That's my absolute favorite thing that I do right now. So yeah, look me up. And if you're frustrated with your job search, I can help. What about you, Tiffany? How can people find you?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much, Ali. I really appreciate you doing this together. It's always so much fun. We've done quite a few of these, and probably this is going to be another one that we'll do in the near future. So, guys, before you do hop off, let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover coming up that are top of mind for you. Always keen to know. And then where you could find me, I will say I'm very active over on LinkedIn and Instagram. So, you could hit me up there either which way. You can also definitely follow me over on YouTube. As Ali shared, we've just launched recently our new video podcast, and we are so excited to bring incredible career stories to you firsthand, access to amazing leaders, and really actionable takeaways that you can apply in your career to land better roles, grow faster, make more money, show up with confidence, bring out your best self in your career. So if that sounds good to you, we'd love to have you there. And you're always welcome to check out my website, tiffanyhuman.com. We have some great free resources waiting for you to take advantage of too. So on that note, happy Friday, Ali. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of our viewers, listeners who are tuning in today. Feel free to DM us if you have any follow-up questions that came through from today's live. And hope you all have an amazing weekend. We'll talk soon. All right. Bye,
Thanks.
Ali.